In 1992, the Japanese government created a task force bent on countering Godzilla's rising threat. Despite being developed with the aid of scientists from around the world, their first offspring, the airship Garuda, proved inefficient in combat. It was only after the department recovered the remains of Mecha King Ghidorah from the bottom of the sea that things really picked up steam. From the study of 23rd century technology, a whole breed of countermeasures against Godzilla were born, including the one that shall be the most powerful machine ever conceived by humankind to stop the radioactive monster. Godzilla vs. MechaGodzilla II is not, as you would expect, a sequel to the first Godzilla vs. MechaGodzilla movie. It was named as such to avoid confusion with the original flick, as both share the exact same title in Japanese. If anything, this more gets in the way than helps, since people who don't know any better would assume this one follows up the original MechaGodzilla movie, instead of Godzilla vs. Mothra. No, not this one, the other one. These titles are getting confusing. A team of Japanese scientists in the year of 1994 visit the island of Adonoa in order to check a recent discovered fossilized pteranodon egg. Of course that things have to go sideways one way or another, and in this case is another as a giant creature, the mighty rodent, starts flying over their camp. As it searches for the giant egg, Godzilla emerges from the ocean for a brawl against the monster. While the two are too busy, the scientists manage to escape the place, taking the fossil with them. Godzilla manages to bury rodent under a pile of rocks, but when he sees it, the helicopter and its cargo are already beyond his reach. On Japan, the egg is found to be still alive. To everyone's surprise though, what comes out of it is not a pteranodon, but rather...
Who's the mama? Where's the mama? Whoa, I'm naked.
The Godzillasaurus instantly becomes infatuated with Azusa, the scientist overlooking the development of his egg. However, there is little time for bonding, as Godzilla appears on the Japanese coast. The G-Force mobilizes and deploys MechaGodzilla for a baptism of fire. And this roundy boy has to be the weakest design we ever got of the character. There's something really wrong about all these curves. In arts and design, it is said that curves are organic and angles are artificial, which might explain why this specific incarnation of a giant machine made to replicate Godzilla's appearance looks so odd. And ultimately, it just lacks the charm of Showa MD or the sleekness of Kiryu. MechaGodzilla intercepts the monster on his way to Kyoto. The machine truly possesses unmatched power, tossing Godzilla around like a rag doll with its energy blast. Unfortunately, as they try to electrocute the creature while he's down, Godzilla somehow manages to surge all that energy back into the mech, overpowering the vehicle and leaving it completely at his mercy. With MechaGodzilla on the ground, Godzilla marches towards Kyoto. Quickly realizing that he's coming for the Godzillasaurus, the good guys hide him in a safe room below ground. Daddy hovers above the building, searching for his son, but can only find frustration, and eventually leaves the precinct. In the following days, the Godzillasaurus, or...
Baby?
This thing is so cute.
Gotta love me.
Anyway, he starts living under the G-Force's roof, and this is in no way a good deed of their part. As it turns out, they tend to use Baby to bait his father into a secluded location. drawing him into a final battle against MechaGodzilla. How they can be so confident that the machine will do its job this time, you ask? Well, by studying Baby, they find out that both him and his dad have a secondary brain located at the base of the spine, controlling the lower half of their bodies. You can see why destroying it would turn a battle in their favor. And contrary to what you might have heard around, dinosaurs did not, in fact, have such a feature in their anatomy. This has been debunked. The one tasked of targeting this secondary brain is Miki Segusa. There she is again, who for some reason does not like the idea of using Baby to lure Godzilla into a trap. No one does. I know the G-Force higher-ups are supposed to come off as unsympathetic in all this, but I really can't help thinking these guys, whose only sin is trying to use every trick on their sleeves to stop a nearly immortal force of destruction that threatens the existence of their very country, are on the right. But if you are so inclined, you can say the writers left the morality of this movie more on the grey side of things. Baby's unrest at the container they place in forced Azusa to join him in his travel to the trap. En route to the location, however, their helicopter is intercepted by a very pissed rodent who destroys the vehicle and kidnaps the two heroes. With everything at stake, the G-Force once again deploys MechaGodzilla to stop the Firebird. But this time the mech has the help of an improved Garuda, who shows itself more than capable of dealing with the monster. While it's standing on the ground, of course. It goes down in 2 seconds once the rodent takes off. MechaGodzilla makes up for it by opening a very nasty hole in the creature's chest, putting it out of action for good. A desperate attempt at rescuing Azusa and the baby starts. It's at this moment that the little creature's father reappears, and shit goes down like crazy between the two titans. The damaged mech has a hard time standing its ground against Goji. For his luck, however, Garuda takes off once more to fight Godzilla. This time it earns a little room for MechaGodzilla to breathe and stand on its feet again. Once the two machines are back on action, it's time for their transformation. And here's the Super MechaGodzilla. In a little aside that entered the annals of Godzilla history, originally MechaGodzilla was supposed to be a giant combining mecha made up of 3 vehicles, one of them being Garuda. This idea was, of course, scrapped, even though Garuda remained. The reason why this concept became so popular is because it can be seen in Noriyoshi Orai's poster for the movie, since he had to work with early concept art for the project. It even became a toy a couple years ago. It certainly looks better than these doofus. The whole combining mech concept will later be revisited in the following film though. Power up! MechaGodzilla hovers around Godzilla, throwing everything it has at the monster. Once they have tired their enemy out, Miki Segusa is ordered to shoot the power cables at his spinal brain. She hesitates, but eventually does what she's supposed to, destroying Godzilla's means of locomotion. While the mech uses the remaining of its firepower in an attempt to reduce the monster into a pulp, the rescue continues. Sensing that his progenitor is in danger, Baby frees himself and screams for Rodent to help. The giant Pteranodon soars one last time to fall over Godzilla's weakened body. In his last moments, the flying monster dissolves over his former rival, reestablishing his strength and regenerating the damaged spinal brain. Indeed, it doesn't, but the fact is that it happens. Now breathing red, Godzilla annihilates the machine. It's fine, everybody's fine. Now that killing Godzilla is not going to happen, the only thing left to do is to allow Baby to reunite with his father. The shy little thing needs a little incentive, but eventually swims away into the horizon with Big Daddy.
That was a good story. Especially me.
Yep.
So, what was the point about that again?
勝負を決めたのは結局命だったな。
Yeah, life. Against artificial life.
Yeah, I call bullshit on this. Although the original idea for the ending was for the Garuda to be destroyed, thus releasing enough radiation to revive Goji, a la Return of Godzilla. This was changed into the complete ass-pull that is the current ending because they thought it was more in line with the theme of
Life. Against artificial life.
So... alright, I'm buying it. And if you think it is odd for Godzilla to come out triumphant like that in the end, it's because it was originally conceived to be the final entry of the Heisei series. Not only out of respect for Ishiro Honda, who had passed away a little before the movie entered production, but also to avoid competition with the quickly approaching American adaptation of the character by Tristar, scheduled to hit theaters in 1994. Because of that, everything that could be done to make this installment as epic as possible was done. Just to see the length at which the filmmakers went, this is the movie with the biggest amount of Godzilla action in history, both in absolute screen time and proportional to the film's runtime. At first, this was to be the rematch with Kong that I previously mentioned in my King Kong vs Godzilla video, which obviously didn't happen due to the licensing costs of the character. The studio tried to work around that by replacing Kong with a human-controlled Mechanicon, since that was technically an original Toho character. Not in the eyes of Universal Pictures lawyers though, hence why this idea was also scrapped. Following that, it was proposed for Godzilla to fight an original monster called Berserk, an alien creature that would come to Earth and start assimilating metal, until taking the shape of a metallic Godzilla near the end of the flick. Basically Chromie Boy here with extra steps. Finally, both the Mechanic Kong idea and the Berserk one would be combined as MechaGodzilla's comeback, since reutilizing familiar faces from the past have worked so well in the last two entries. Another figure from Godzilla's past that was brought back was... yeah, him. Baby is not named such, but he's totally based on Minilla. He was brought back to, you guessed it, once again appeal to the female portion of the audience. This, of course, despite protests from the director, who despised the movies in which Minilla appeared, considering them the low point of the franchise. You and everyone else, buddy. Plot aside, everything in the filmmaker's powers was done to make this movie as anthological as possible. Besides the visual nods to previous entries in the series, Akira Ifukube recycled a number of kills from past works of his in the soundtrack. Not for nothing, this film was advertised as his final scoring of a Godzilla film. And all of that combined does give the final product a gravitas you rarely see in the franchise. I'm not so sure if it works as a final chapter, because the ending certainly lacks closure, but the weight of the whole piece is undeniable. Of course, this was not the end. At least not for now. Tristar's Godzilla of 1994 never happened, and Toho immediately started working on the follow-up to this one, Godzilla vs... Jeez, they are running out of ideas. Godzilla vs Space Godzilla.